Welcome back. In this module, we talk about cloud computing models and the shared responsibility framework. Cloud computing is often described as a technological shift, a move away from servers in offices and data centers towards systems accessed over the internet. But from a cybersecurity perspective, cloud computing represents something deeper and more consequential. It is a shift in responsibility. Many cyber incidents involving cloud environments do not occur because attackers used advanced techniques or novel exploits. They occur because responsibilities were misunderstood, assumptions were left unchallenged, and boundaries were never clearly defined. This section is about clarifying those boundaries. You do not need to deploy cloud systems yourself to be affected by them. If you rely on digital services in any form, be it email, collaboration tools, analytics platforms, customer systems, cloud infrastructure is almost certainly part of your operating environment. Understanding how responsibility is divided in that environment is essential for understanding where risk actually resides, what the cloud really is, and what it is not. Despite the way it is often described, the cloud is not an abstract space where responsibility dissolves. It is not a vague digital ether. At its core, the cloud is someone else's computer housed in large, professionally managed data centers and connected to the internet. What makes cloud computing different is not where systems live, but how they are delivered. Cloud providers offer computing resources as services. These resources can be provisioned quickly, scaled on demand, and accessed remotely. Servers can be created in minutes. Storage can expand automatically. Applications can be deployed globally without building physical infrastructure. This flexibility creates enormous efficiency. It also creates new trust relationships. When you use the cloud, you're deliberately handing control of certain layers of your technology stack to a third party. The critical question is not whether that handoff exists, but where it stops. Cyber risk emerges when that boundary is unclear. The illusion of outsourced security. One of the most common misconceptions about cloud computing is the belief that security is fully outsourced along with infrastructure. This belief is understandable. Cloud providers invest heavily in security. They operate data centers at a scale few organizations can match. They employ dedicated security teams, advanced monitoring, and rigorous physical protections. But this leads to a dangerous assumption. If it's in the cloud, it's secure. That assumption is wrong. Cloud providers secure the cloud, not what you put inside it. The difference between those two ideas is the foundation of the shared responsibility framework. Understanding the shared responsibility framework. The shared responsibility framework exists to answer a simple but critical question: who is responsible for what? In any cloud environment, security responsibilities are divided between the cloud provider and the customer. The exact division depends on the type of cloud service being used. The provider is responsible for securing the underlying infrastructure, the physical data centers, the hardware, the networking backbone, and the core platform services. The customer is responsible for everything built on top of that foundation. This division is not negotiable. It is built into the architecture of cloud computing itself. Misunderstanding it does not shift responsibility, it only shifts risk. And this is where many real world cloud incidents actually begin. A team moves internal documents into cloud storage to enable remote work and collaboration. The cloud provider secures the data centers, the servers, and the availability of the service. But a simple configuration choice leaves the storage publicly accessible. No systems are hacked, no credentials are stolen. The data is simply available to anyone who knows where to look. When the exposure is discovered months later, the provider has done nothing wrong. The failure sits entirely with the customer's configuration, exactly as defined by the shared responsibility model. Infrastructure as a service, control and exposure. In an infrastructure as a service model, the cloud provider supplies basic computing resources, virtual machines, storage, and networking. From a customer's perspective, this feels similar to running your own servers, except the hardware is abstracted away. The provider is responsible for physical security of data centers, hardware maintenance, underlying virtualization infrastructure. The customer is responsible for operating systems, applications, data, network configuration, identity, and access controls. In IaaS environments, customers retain significant control, and with that control comes significant responsibility. Many cloud breaches occur at this layer, not because the provider failed, but because customers misconfigured networks, exposed services unnecessarily, or failed to manage access properly. The cloud makes powerful capabilities easy to deploy. It also makes powerful mistakes easy to make. Platform as a service, abstraction and assumption. Platform as a service shifts more responsibility to the provider. In this model, the provider manages not only the infrastructure but also the operating system and runtime environment. Customers focus on deploying applications and managing data. This abstraction reduces operational burden. It also introduces new assumptions. The provider secures infrastructure, operating systems, and runtime environments. The customer secures application logic, data, access permissions, configuration settings. Because more layers are hidden, customers may feel less exposed, but misconfiguration remains a dominant risk. A misconfigured database, overly permissive access rule, or poorly designed authentication flow can still expose sensitive data, even when the underlying platform is well secured. Abstraction reduces complexity, it does not remove accountability. Software as a service, SaaS, convenience and blind spots. Software as a service offers the highest level of abstraction. In SaaS environments, the provider delivers a complete application, email, collaboration tools, analytics platforms, customer management systems, which are accessible through a browser or API. The provider is responsible for infrastructure, platform, application availability, and maintenance. The customer is responsible for user access, data usage, configuration choices, governance, and compliance. And this is where responsibility is most commonly understood. Because customers do not manage servers or software updates, security can feel distant, almost invisible. But most SaaS breaches involve compromised credentials, excessive permissions, or misuse of data rather than failures of the underlying service. If an attacker logs in using valid credentials, the system behaves exactly as designed. From the application's perspective, nothing is wrong. Why misconfiguration is the dominant cloud risk? Across cloud models, one theme appears consistently in major incidents: misconfiguration. Cloud environments are flexible by design, and that flexibility requires choices about exposure, access, integration, and defaults. Small configuration decisions can have large consequences. A storage bucket left publicly accessible, an API exposed without authentication, an access role granted broader permissions than intended. These are not exotic failures, they are ordinary decisions made under time pressure. Incomplete understanding or optimistic assumptions. The cloud does not forgive ambiguity. Identity as the new security perimeter. In traditional environments, security focused heavily on network boundaries: who has inside and who was outside. Cloud computing disrupts this model. Cloud services are accessible from anywhere. Location becomes relevant. Identity becomes central. Who you are, what you're allowed to do, matters more than where you are connecting from. This is why identity and access management is one of the most critical and most challenging aspects of cloud security. Weak credentials, excessive permissions, or poorly governed identities undermine every other control. In the cloud, identity is a perimeter, the responsibility gap where risk actually emerges. Most cloud security failures occur not because responsibilities are unclear in theory, but because they are unclear in practice. People assume Someone else is handling security. Defaults are safe. Controls are inherited automatically. These assumptions create gaps. Cloud providers are explicit about their responsibilities. Customers are often vague about theirs. Risk emerges precisely in that mismatch. Why this matters beyond technology teams. You do not need to configure cloud systems to be affected by cloud risk. Decisions about vendors, platforms, data usage, integrations, and workflows all influence where responsibility lies. If those decisions are made without understanding the shared responsibility model, organizations unknowingly accept risk they do not intend to own. This is why cloud security is not just a technical concern, it's a governance concern. Understanding responsibility is a prerequisite for accountability. Key takeaway: the cloud does not eliminate security responsibility, it redistributes it. Cloud providers secure the foundation, customers secure what they build on top of it. Most cloud incidents occur not because attackers break through defenses, but because responsibilities are misunderstood or ignored. Understanding the shared responsibility framework does not require technical expertise. It requires clarity about boundaries. That clarity is essential for reasoning about risk in modern digital environments.